Welcome back to Love&I, the show that talks about real life dating experiences, relationships, and everything else that is in between.
And as probably obvious, we just don't get on here and start recording. We kind of chit chat about different topics, and sometimes it surprises me certain things that come up. And we were discussing the prevalence of, like, you get to know somebody, you're having a great time, or you meet someone, and after a couple of dates, they start talking about exes and trust issues and just these things that you wouldn't expect early into a relationship or that surprises you later in the relationship. So we thought today we'd talk a little bit about that.
And there are some things that can come up right away when you first meet somebody, but there are certain things that don't come up until months later in the relationship. For me, it's always been interesting how the process of getting to know someone, we always think like the hardest part is like the first 2-3 months when you first meet somebody, but I don't think it ends there. I think there are just so many things that come up as you progress in the relationship that you never really thought that it would be an issue.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in multiple relationships that lasted more than a year. I've been in a couple that lasted more than 4 years. And like you said, it's never, not never, sometimes it's not the first few months that makes or breaks a relationship. It's things that go on, and it's whether, trust issues or whatever it is. It just, over time, it can pile up.
Yeah. Because the first 2-3 months are the honeymoon time, right?
Yes.
So you're putting the best foot forward, you're showing all your best attributes, but then as you start progressing, then you start seeing, hold on, like this sounded weird, or whatever they said or whatever they did. In my experience, I've noticed, especially lately, going out on dates, I'm seeing that people are really bringing past baggage. And that's not something that we never talked about or we never heard, but in real life, it just doesn't flow as smoothly as you could see it on like podcasts when they talk about healthy relationships or red flags or green flags. It's just something that comes up out of the blue. You're having dinner and boom, you're talking about somebody else's ex. You know them by name and you know more about them than they know about you.
Yeah, and it's, there are multiple pitfalls that go into what can sabotage a relationship, and talking about one of your exes is one of them. And,
Why did you have to bring him? No, it's a good one. This is a good one. I think a lot of people are going to relate to this.
Yeah, and so for me, I can think of a few instances during my relationships or getting to know somebody where they would talk about their exes, and my rule of thumb was always I wouldn't ever bring them up unless the person I was with asked about them. And it honestly surprises me how often women ask about my exes and want to know more about my exes and what happened.
Is that when you first meet them or later on?
It's typically pretty early.
Yeah. Well, we want to see, what do you have to say?
Yeah.
It's for example, I've seen people that refer to their exes as crazy, or they would use the word narc a lot. And I'm like, did you diagnose them? Like, how do you know? But then as they start talking about their exes, you kind of want to see if the story stays consistent. Next time you ask them, you want to get the same version, but you may get another version. So that's the reason that women first ask when they first meet you. They just want to see how you handled that or what the issues were.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's always a hard question to answer. And typically what I'll do is I'll just make a joke saying, oh, I don't have any exes or anything like that. I mean, obviously
That's
it's
cool.
a lie.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and it typically gets a laugh, and
Yeah.
that either gets them off the trail or they'll push on anyway, like, no, come on, tell me about it.
It's good because when you bring it up like that, when you say that, it means, one, there's nobody current that you're still lingering feelings for, which is a good thing, or nobody that important. And second, you don't have any baggage.
Yeah.
So you don't go in, oh, well, let me tell you this story. That's just not fun.
Yeah, and part of the reason I did that is because, especially if it was very early on, I don't know, I feel like if you say nice things about your ex, it probably wouldn't come off well. If you say negative things about your ex, it's just like, oh, well, he badmouths other people.
Yeah.
So it just puts you in a very tough position. And, one thing I tried to be very upfront about is, I had cheated in the past, and that would typically lead to conversations about my exes. But, so I was very upfront about that. But other than that, I try not to talk too much about them unless I was, they were very insistent. So I guess it sounds like for women what they do is kind of a fact check over time to see if stories are consistent.
Right. Like sometimes guys will start talking about their exes without being asked, but the way that they do it, which it's funny to me because they are on a date, but they're talking about their exes, going over memories they had with them. And it makes you feel like you're this new friend that they're sharing these experiences with. And you're like, okay, this doesn't feel like a date anymore. It's like you're that comfortable to start talking about, so we went on a boat and I was being romantic, and then I got this bottle of wine and the 2 glasses. And he's trying to tell you a funny story, how he didn't think that you shouldn't have glasses, real glasses on a boat. But he's going on and on about this, and you're sitting there listening to somebody's romantic experience, and you're on a date with them. You're like, oh, that's nice. Haha. Like, when is it funny and when it's not? Like you're telling your new potential partner about your romantic dates. Have you ever done that?
No, I never did that unless I was, and that's something that I would make that initial joke of I have no exes, and they would ask about them, again, and I would give a little bit more details. But when they really started pushing, then I would start trying to really stir away from it, because it doesn't feel right talking about memories with your ex. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad to have those memories, but you're trying to create new memories with new people.
Exactly, I agree.
So, I mean, I've always, I don't know. I'm curious how you feel about this. I have talked to people and asked them about their background and stuff like that, and they would say, when I'm getting to know somebody, they would say, my ex and I went to Greece, or my ex and I went to...
That is so freaking annoying.
I don't know if it's like them not thinking, or if they're still hanging on to their ex. But typically, if I talk about somewhere I've been with an ex, I'll just say I went. Not
Same.
We went or my ex and I.
No, I don't use the word we because who is we? Okay, so we, especially our age, okay, we have had more than one ex, for sure. So, of course, a lot of our experiences would involve another person. And nobody's stupid. Like, if you went to Greece and then you took this Europe trip and then you went to Hawaii, and you didn't go by yourself. And you didn't go with your 2 other guy friends, okay? So, like, we assume that those were experiences that you shared with your former partner. But you don't have to tell us that. Like, I don't have to tell you, oh yeah, me and my ex went and did this and did that, unless it's like a specific story. It's a story that could be funny, that could relate to something that happened. For example, I talked to this guy and he was telling me about the stories when he got high. So it's like, he's telling me the story and he's like, I was high, and it was funny. It was like a really funny story because he was with people from work, etc. And then the only story that I could relate was when my ex and I went to San Francisco and he got really high. So, like it was like a funny story when he got high. And that's probably like the only time that I would bring up, like, when it's like we're sharing funny stories, or he's telling me something like they were walking somewhere and his ex just fell, or this is what he did. Because sometimes, even though we're mentioning exes, I personally do not bring them up in a way to make you feel jealous or to make you feel compared. So the context in why you're bringing them up has to be important.
So on the comparison note, is it a red flag if someone says something like, I hope you don't do this like my ex, or
That's different because there is a comparison, or there is a projecting in a way. Like, I still have trust issues, and I hope that you don't do this like my ex. And I don't know what it related to, really. But I would say that I have never told somebody, I hope you don't do it like my ex, whatever it is. Deep down, I probably did. I mean, yeah, of course, we all look at it and we're like, well, those things look familiar,
Yeah.
but no, I never said it out loud. Have you?
I mean, I haven't, but I've had people in my life that are like, you are. I'm a very outgoing person, and so a lot of people, whenever they meet me, women-wise, relationship-wise, they're like, oh, I've dated these charming people in the past, and it's burned me because they ended up cheating on me. So I hope you don't turn out like my ex.
Oh, certain things about your personality kind of trigger them into similarities with their ex.
Yes.
Well, that makes sense. I would say that if somebody is sharing that with you, that it's a vulnerable way, it's them being honest, I would see it as heads up. So there are certain things that my ex did that led me to believe that this type of personality it's going to result in certain outcomes in the relationship.
Yeah.
So if I see the same, and we all do that, like if we see some traits of our exes that ended up hurting us, if we see them in the new person, I would kind of have like my lights on and just be like, all right, I need to pay attention because it could turn out, the same way, even though they're two different people. But I can see that. But they're being honest. I don't see it as something bad.
Yeah, I mean, so I agree with you, and it's just again, I've always been very big about I don't ever say the word ex unless someone's asking me about it. I just I try and have the conversation without even bringing up anything like that but I also get the flip side of why bringing it up, because a lot of our trust issues come from exes.
A lot? All of them?
True.
I mean, if you add childhood issues too, but yeah.
My biggest trust issue, and one thing that's always kind of triggered me, is when like the person I was with would like kind of hide their phone, because I was cheated on twice where they were messaging on their phone and stuff like that, and it was kind of odd the way that they were kind of hiding their phone and kind of their mannerisms and stuff.
Yeah, when they kind of like, if the phone is on the counter on the table and then you're close to it and they kind of like walk by and they pick up the phone and they put it in their pocket, or when they go to the bathroom they take their phone with them. I mean, I do that too. Like, I'll take my phone with me, but not all the time. Especially if I'm around my partner, my phone could be anywhere.
Yeah.
It's not something that I would look for. Because most of the time, when we keep our phone so close to ourselves and our hands the whole time, is because we're expecting a message or something from somebody. So if your partner is with you, then what is the point of having your phone? Like, even if your friend will text you, you can get back to your text. I can't speak. You can get back to your text. to your friend like in 30 minutes or 10 minutes or, whenever you're done doing whatever it is. So that's fishy.
Yeah, and there were a couple of times, well, in my relationships, you would get on dating apps for a little while, and I'm sure it's like this for women as well. You would get on dating apps, and then you start dating somebody, and then, you get off the dating apps and you start dating somebody, but, sometimes you get those residual 3 months later from people you used to text, like, hey, how are you doing? Or,
they
hey,
pop
I'm
up
in
like
town.
mushrooms.
Yeah.
You're like, what the fuck? Like, I haven't talked to you in like 4 or 5 months.
Yes.
And I'm sorry I forgot to block you, but you were not, that important.
Well, so what would happen is I would sometimes get those texts with like hi winky face or something like that. And my biggest problem, and in hindsight, at the time I don't think it was a bad idea, but what I would do is I would also name my contacts as first name and then the dating app I met them on.
Same.
So
Same.
So it would be like Lori, Hinge,
Jesse,
Lori,
Bumble.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I would do that so I could refer back to the dating app and go through our conversation so I could remember what
So
we talked
you can
about.
leave a good review when they ask you if it was successful. Yes, I met 5 out of 10 people and it worked out.
And so, whenever I would get those hi winky face from Karen Tinder, it just wasn't a good look.
Of course not.
So, it did require some conversation of, these are just residuals coming in, you can look at my phone, look at the text messages. Sometimes you would get those random Instagram messages from like those busty fake accounts or whatever. And so it's just, I would always say, look at my phone, look at the text messages. If you're worried, like I've always tried to be very open about that.
Right.
But I mean, again, that has been one of my triggers when someone kind of hides their phone from me or like puts it to the side or stuff like that. And I know some of the people, I can't say all of them, but some of the people would never ever cheat on me, but it was just that triggering effect from being cheated on again and me finding out through the phone.
If you can see the signs, then the trigger is there. Have you ever looked through somebody's phone?
I did. One time I was dating somebody and I saw that they got a text on their phone and it was a suspicious text. So I opened it up and I scrolled up like, I don't know.
What is a suspicious text?
I can't remember it at this point, but it was enough to indicate there was some kind of interest.
Anything that starts with hey. Anything that starts with hey, open it. It's not professional.
I can't remember. This was back in 2014, so I don't think there was really actual emojis. It was all text emojis and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I scrolled up a page and she had sent this guy nudes, and I was just like, okay.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Oh, how did that feel?
Did not feel good.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've known some people that they will look through people's phones.
Yeah.
And if they find videos, they will watch the videos.
Yeah.
Like from beginning to end.
Yeah.
I could never do that.
That's like masochistic.
Yeah.
I would say. But then again, now that you look back, are you glad you saw that?
Absolutely.
So is it justifiable in a way to go through somebody's phone when you have, because you don't just go to your partner's phone for no reason. Like there have to be some things that have happened back to back, like some signs and triggers.
100%.
Yeah, so it's not like out of the blue, you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh, I'm making coffee. Let me go through your phone. Nobody does, like at least a normal person.
Yeah.
But if you see some signs, then when you go and get it, and I have done that once, and I hated that feeling. Like you have this hole in your stomach, one, from reading whatever you're reading,
and you know
that
you're
is painful,
something.
and two, you feel like a piece of shit for doing that, because you know you're not supposed to be doing that, But at the same time, you're like, well, shit, we're both cheaters here.
Mm-hmm.
You did what you did, and I had to find out the way I had to find out, which makes us both shitty. It would have saved us a lot of time if we're honest. But I think that's the worst feeling in the world, to actually, or to go through it and like find something that it's even more suspicious and ambiguous, and it leaves you hanging like, okay, who is this person? Because you can't see enough material. So you're like, okay. And you read it to your friend and you send a screenshot and you're like, anything weird here on this? Do you see anything? Any of the words? So I think going through somebody's phone is the worst feeling in the world. I would never want to do that.
Yeah, I've only done it twice, and both times I found out the person was cheating on me. And I mean, and then again, like you said, it's a pattern of things. Like there's been one time on my wife's phone I saw something that was suspicious. It was nothing, but I was just like, I'm not gonna look through it because I trust her. This is like the one time I've seen something kind of off. Like it doesn't matter. But for both of my exes, my first one actually had cheated on me before and was now cheating on me a second time. So that one was kind of easy. And then the other one, I had cheated on her, and then I found out that she was messaging somebody. So I was kind of expecting it. And plus, like her mannerism, she was just in a much better mood than she had been. So I was like, okay,
yeah,
something's
sums
going
up,
on.
yeah.
So, like you said, you're not going to just look through unprompted unless something's wrong with you. Like this.
I mean, we tend to trust. So my friends tell me that I am very trusting as a person, while they are more doubtful. So they kind of, when they meet somebody, they let the other person earn the trust. So the way that they treat them is, I don't trust you until you earn my trust. I trust you until you break it. So I don't know which way is better, but I've always had this trust and check type thing. So I will give you the benefit of the doubt. I will trust you, because what's the point of me wanting to start a relationship with you if I don't trust you? Or if you tell me I want you to trust me, then I will trust you until you prove me wrong.
Yeah.
Because I personally think going about it that way, it gives you a better platform to build your relationship than going in it with, I don't trust you. I'm going to check your phone for the next 6 months. I'm going to see where you go. If you say you're going out with your boys, I'm going to go check on you. So after I check all these things for you, then I'll trust you. Like, I can't go about it that way. I don't trust you until you earn it.
So you 100% trust someone immediately?
Not 100%. I trust that you will do the right thing in this relationship. I'm not blinded to it. That's why trust and check is important. If I see certain signs or certain triggers, then yeah, I'm going to question you about it. I will ask you, but I will not go check your phone.
So over time, do you think you could 100% trust someone? And let me give you a couple of examples. Like, your guy goes on a bachelor party, or your guy goes on a business trip somewhere like Houston or New York, places like that.
Yeah.
Would there be something in the back of your mind being like, oh, he's not doing anything stupid?
No.
Okay.
It's torture. For me, it's torture to even think that, because that builds anxiety. And I've been in those. I mean, I've been cheated on. Yeah. I know exactly how it feels. It's the worst feeling. And prior to that, my ex, we were together for 6 years. He was passionate about surfing, fishing. So that was something that I knew about him when we first got together. So that was part of his life. That was what he enjoyed. So I didn't have any issues with him continuing to take surfing trips, fishing trips. And I never even wondered what he's doing. But then again, he would be very consistent. He would communicate. He would let me know what not what he's doing all the time, but he would make sure that we communicated every night, we talked. And you can sense it in somebody's voice. Because when he cheated, which was way later, towards the end of the relationship, that things were already rough anyway, not justifying it, but that's when it happened. When he cheated, I knew exactly that something was going on. Women's intuition is on point.
Yeah.
It's very, like, there is no way that we do not sense it, that something is in the air. We may ignore it because it's convenient for the time being, but we know. We know from the tone of your voice. We know from the way you text. Even when you send a text, we can read it and we can see that you're uncomfortable, something is about to happen, you're trying to rush us. Like, there's so many clues, that we can see. And and I knew that something was up because that trip was very different than any other trip in the way he texted me or communicated or called, all of those. So I was up till 1:00 in the morning going, this is really weird that I haven't heard from him in the past 6 hours. Like, really weird. And sure shit. But you kind of sense it. So did I trust him before? Of course. Do we have a reason not to? So that's the confusing part. How do we go in? How do we handle it? Do we have to make somebody jump through hoops and prove us how trustworthy they are? How are they going to do that?
Yeah, and like you said, the consistency part I think is very important. It's just, consistently communicating that, just having kind of that routine with someone that out of town. I think, like you said, that's important. And then also, if something does come up, because things come up sometimes, some things are out of your hand. Like when you get messages from someone from Bumble or something like that, or someone sends you a stupid text and, your significant other sees it, you gotta stop everything, explain the situation. They might not like to hear that at some point you were dating this person and they would come into town and you two would just mess around while they were in town. And so they message you once a year. But I mean,
these days, anything is expected.
I guess.
That's how people. So, going back, let's start with the app. Especially if you meet each other on apps and you have other people that you went out with. When you decide to be exclusive and you decide to delete the app, how do you know your partner really deleted the app?
You don't.
Okay, so you're trusting. You're going in it thinking they are telling you the truth. And you're giving them the benefit of the doubt. And then somebody pops up. What if they don't tell you? What if you didn't see it? Or what if your partner didn't see that somebody texted you? Would you have still be open and tell them that happened? Or you would just close it and nobody will ever know? I'll give you a minute.
To me, I've just always been very and sometimes it's going to be uncomfortable, the honest truth, and it's not always, every single time where I've had something's come up and I've had to explain it, it hasn't been comfortable. Like, there is one time where I was having a conversation on the phone with someone I was with in the car, and whenever I got the call, it was like through the car speakers, and then what I did is I switched it to my phone because, one, I thought it was going to annoy the person that I was in the car with, and two, he knew I was seeing somebody and dating somebody, and I was afraid he was going to say something stupid like, oh, I see that you're dating another person, or here's another one.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay, let's just prevent him saying something stupid. But what I didn't realize was me doing that was going to get me in trouble. So then there was a conversation like, why did you do the phone like that? Is something going on that I need to know about?
Yeah.
So then, you have that conversation of why you did it, and then, it's not a comfortable conversation, but you just gotta be honest.
And you have to be open. That's one thing. And also, no matter what the answer is that you're providing, you may or may not be believed. So you got a 50-50 chance that you may get away with this. Because if the person doesn't choose to trust you, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What if they just say, sorry, I don't believe you? You don't have another version. That's the only version of the story that you have. So the other person has to choose. That's why I choose to trust you. What you're saying is true because we save each other a lot of headache and heartache and misunderstandings from the beginning. Because if something bad will happen, or if they are really doing something bad, there's not going to be just one scenario, just one time. You're going to keep seeing things happening.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just once. It's not going to be just one text. It's going to be a 1 a.m. text or a notification on the phone. So you don't really have to go, oh, I can't believe I trusted you on the first time and you lied to me, even though nothing ever happened again. When did that ever happen?
Yeah, and you thinking about this conversation and stuff like that. I mean, you're right. There is nothing that gets by women. I mean,
Nothing.
There was one time
You can breathe wrong, and we know you're holding something from us.
Well, there was one time where I was in the car with someone I was dating at the time, and then the person I was cheating on her with called me, and she goes, "Hey, what are you up to?" And I said, "My ex's name and I are going to such and such." So I made it clear.
Oh my God. Oh, that's so uncomfortable.
And thankfully, the person on the phone was able to pivot the conversation like that.
Smart.
To like cover it
and
up.
save some dignity too.
Yes.
Yeah.
But after that phone conversation, I could tell the person I was with could tell something was up, and I was just like, I don't know if there's any come back from this.
You were cheating with the other person.
Yeah, the person that called me.
Okay, so the moment that you answered the phone, your voice told her everything she needed to know.
But the problem is if I didn't pick up the phone, I think that would have been weird too. It was.
Listen, it's your body language. It's your nervousness. Those are the things that it's like we just get it. We know that shit's going down. Like there is something here. Like I've had a couple of those things that have come to me out of nowhere, and you're like, whoa, like he acted weird.
Yeah.
That was a weird look, or that was a weird tone that he used. Because as humans, we're not that different when guys cheat and when girls cheat. Like, we know we fucked up. So our whole demeanor changes in the relationship. We act different because we're being weird. Because we don't know how to be normal, so we go on overdrive to be more attentive, more charismatic, more sexual, just so you make sure that they don't understand that we're doing something else.
Yeah.
So if you would usually come home and kind of be, I had a day, whatever. And one day you come home and you bring flowers and you're like all, like overboard, not your usual self. We change. Like we change how we behave, and we think the other person is not noticing the change.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Cheating is something that cannot really. There's some people that are pretty fucking skilled. They can cheat for years and have long affairs, and I don't know if the partner doesn't want to know or doesn't understand it, but I'd say it's pretty difficult not to understand that your partner is cheating.
Yeah. I mean, at this point in my life, I just always make it very clear that, anytime I meet someone, it's always like, somehow I bring in my wife, or, I'll play with my ring or something just to make it clear.
Yeah, but that's the best. That's the best you can do.
Yeah.
Because, one, by being honest, you don't have much to lose. And by not being honest, you have everything to lose.
100%.
You're going to meet people. I've met a lot of people in my life when I was married. And I was more hit it on when I was married than single now. I'm telling you. I don't know, it's because I just went out and I didn't care about anybody. Like I wasn't looking for anybody. So maybe that was something more attractive to, I don't know. It's weird. Or maybe my ring. Who knows? That could play a role too. I don't know. People are weird. But as soon as they would approach me, I would smile and say, oh, thank you. That's a nice compliment. I'm married though. Like just give them, they're like, oh, that's too bad. Yeah, I guess. And there was nothing to hide. And whenever I would come home, if my partner would ask me, so how many guys did hit on you? I would be like, 2? Like, I wouldn't lie. Okay. I would not say that, oh, no, nobody talked to me, because he knows it's not true.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second. So, a guy walks up to you and says, hey, I saw you from across the bar. You look pretty. Can I buy you a drink?
Oh, they don't talk that long. They say, hey, what's up? Okay. I'm so-and-so. What's your name?
And what's your response? Like, how would you respond to that?
I smile and I say, I'm married. First response. I don't even say I'm Lori. I don't even say, what's up? I don't even lead into the conversation.
Okay.
I know why he came over. I'm married. So, like, bummer. But move on to the next.
So I was with this one guy, and what he would do is if someone was to walk up to him, he would say something like, I'm flattered you would say something to me, or I appreciate you taking time to say something, or it was always the like, I'm flattered or something like that. Is that a bad way to say it?
No.
I feel like it is.
It's not, because guys are always more gentle with women, and women are different with guys. Women can be a little more direct. We have that. You're not going to take us. You're not going to be insulted if I smile at you and I say, I'm married. I'm not going to be like, stay away, I'm married. No, but, we just give that with our smile. Thank you for walking here, but I'm married. With a guy, if he does the same, like if I go to a guy and I don't know he's married, and I'm like, hi, how are you doing? I'm so-and-so. And he looks at me and he goes, I'm married? That's insulting.
Okay, so
it just doesn't sound right. It's like, okay, I was just going to say, if you can pass me the napkin.
Yeah.
Like, why would you assume that I came to you for that? We do. Women do. And even if we assumed wrong, the guy would be like, well, I wasn't asking you out or anything. Oh, cool. All right. Sorry. We kind of played off.
Yeah.
But men have to be a little more gentle when they reject women, because it's very hard for women to approach a guy at a bar, especially to get hit with the I'm married. I've done that in my best friend's bachelorette party, in your wife's bachelorette party. I took the courage to talk to the person that was standing next to me. Because I'm like, well, I'm with like 7, 8 women, and they're all married, and I'm the only single one here. So why not? I never do this. So I'm just going to be strong, and I'm going to say hi. And I was like, hi. And he's like, hi. And I can't remember what I said, like a fun thing or something. And no, it was a dare. It was a bachelorette dare. So that's how I built my courage to talk to the guy. I had to ask for a clothing item or so. I don't know what the question was. So I approached him, because at the end, whatever he said, I'd be like, well, it's just a dare. I had to talk to you. And as soon as I asked him, he's like, that is lovely, my dear, but I am married. And I immediately look at his hand. He didn't have a freaking ring. And I want to be like, well, why don't you wear it? So it was hard to hear it. I felt a little stupid. And I felt even a little intimidated, because what if his wife was 3 steps away and was watching this? So for a woman to go to a guy, it takes a lot.
Gotcha.
So it's good. It's nice that he respected her that way.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you have brought that up, but I don't know. It was just I've always been curious about that. I've never asked about that before. But speaking of that guy, he also would use his wife as kind of like his therapist as well. And
Oh,
so,
oh, yeah.
because I'm all about professional help, I've gotten it before, but it seems like, shoot, even a lot of women I spoke to, I really became like I heard some crazy stuff, like on some of my first or second dates, about some of the stuff these women have gone through. And, you know, it's always surprising to me that, a lot of this kind of, for lack of a better word, baggage would come out, and they would have these conversations, and they would, just want me to listen. Not so much really give my opinion, sometimes they would, but for the most part, just listen. And I'm just always like, I don't know if I'm the person you should be telling this to. Like, I want to hear it, maybe not on the first date, but, if you're talking to me about this, it's obviously on the forefront of your mind, and it's something you need to work through. So I don't know if women have the same experience as I
Oh,
have.
yeah. And women are, I would say there are more women that are used as therapists from guys than the other. Because guys tend to not have a lot of friends or very close friends that they talk to, and women do. So before we go to a guy and use him as a therapist, we already have 3 best friends, women that we talk about all our stuff. So for guys, when they meet a woman, they try to get everything out of that woman, being therapist, a best friend, a cook, a masseuse. And it's, I've had that actually. I've had that and you know how easy it is to take that role on? Because when you care about somebody, you want to listen to them. You want to be their support system. But there is this fine line of I'm your support system, but you're truly using me as your therapist to deal with issues and traumas that you never dealt with professionally. And I don't think I'm helping over here because I can be biased. I can be biased. I'm going to tell you what I think is best, but I'm not an expert. I don't know. And I've had that happening. I've had that happening when at first I saw it as him being vulnerable. Because those things get confused sometimes. You want them to open up. Like we do want our partner to open up. Men don't tend to open up much. So when they start opening up, they can go down a rabbit hole of from the childhood issues, and all of this stuff. And we want to hear it. But then you keep doing it over and over and over, kind of like every day, following the same stories, going back to the same stories, and it feels like you're becoming a therapist. And they call you to ask you specific questions about certain things that relate to their past or ask you advice. So you come to a point where you're like, okay, I don't feel right about this. I feel that the reason that you are with me is because of this kind of support that you're receiving. But you're not doing it for yourself. Like you're not changing anything about your behavior or your life or your outlook, but you keep coming to me for that that type of support. I think it can be too much.
Yeah. Like you said, it's important to get that professional help. And, I see the value in bringing up some of your past and baggage and stuff like that, but I think for your significant other, it's for them, it is, when you tell them about it, it's so that way they can understand you more.
You can, yes, and there is that, it's a fine line, but you do understand when it's taken a turn.
You don't need to go to your significant other for a solution. Like,
no, you're telling them, especially, and those are things that come up when you first get together, right?
Yeah.
Because you want your person to know who you are and why you are the way you are, so they kind of understand your triggers, things, your deal breakers, what makes you angry, what makes you happy, how that relates to you, or past trauma that you're still dealing with, but you are still dealing with, and that's the key. You are dealing with, you are doing the work, you are going to a therapist, you're letting me know, so I know how to talk to you, so I know how to treat you, so I know what upsets you, what's not okay, and that's perfectly fine. We want to know that. I want to know how you feel loved in case you were not loved as a kid. I want to know what emotional connection means to you. I want to know what sex means to you, because we have different backgrounds and we come with all kinds of traumas and needs that were never being met. So that is different. But when you come to me for advice on certain things that relate to your past, relate to your traumas, or you treat me wrong, you project those traumas onto me, but then you use it as an excuse. Like you say, well, I know I did this, and I know I said this to you, and I know I treated you like this, but I think it's because when I was a kid, this is what so-and-so happened, and then this is... Right, I'm not your therapist, though. I'm another human being that deserves to be treated with respect. And whatever those issues are, I feel sorry for you. I do understand. But you have to work those out in order to be and cohabitate with another human being. Do you see what I mean?
I do, and I feel like a lot of people that would listen to this would disagree with certain things that we're saying, but
absolutely,
I don't think that people are really trying to listen to.
I'm not a psychologist. I'm like, I just been in the experience, and I know how both aspects feel.
Yes, and I think what I think would be helpful to make clear is, like you were saying, it's when someone is upset, taking something out on you, and then they're using their past as justification for being upset with you. Whereas if I am down about something, or something's upsetting me, like I'm not upset with my significant other, but something's bothering me, then it might be helpful to bring up, some of my past, why things are bothering me and stuff like that, just that way they understand where I'm coming from. So whenever it comes to talking about your past, again, I think it's big about, don't come looking for a solution, and when you talk about it, you're using it as an understanding of where you personally come from, and not as ammo for someone that you're currently fighting with.
Right.
So anytime that,
justifying your actions.
Exactly. So what you should do is those issues that are baggage and that you're using as fuel for the fire when you're fighting with your significant other, you should be using that. You should be not using that. You should be seeking help for that. So that way, there might be certain things in a relationship where you're just like, you and your significant other disagree on certain trigger points. Like, for example, like, I don't put laundry away, and that bothers you because one of your exes would just leave clothes all over the ground. And this is a terrible example, but, to me, leaving the clothes on the chair for a day is not the end of the world, but to the other person, it's unbearable. And so they get upset at you and whatever. Stuff like that, you might want to seek some help, because, to a lot of people, maybe just leaving them in the chair for a day is not that bad. So if it's something that you and your significant other disagree on, and it's like a deep-rooted disagreement, and it's because of something in your past, it might be helpful to find, talk to professional help about it.
Yeah. And as I said, it's a fine line. Because you want to have that closeness with your partner, and you want to share. You really want to share every detail of your life and their life, so you can understand them and be close. But let's say you're constantly having issues at work, and they're all related to certain things that you never worked with yourself. You're not self-aware. You don't understand what you're contributing to the situation at work. And you're constantly coming to your partner with the same issue over and over and over and over and over, and you're really doing nothing about it. And you expect your partner to support you through all of this, and nothing ever changes.
Yeah.
Then your partner becomes a person that you just vent to, and in a way they become your therapist because they're listening to the same thing over and over, and they're telling you, well, you did this or you said this, and you're like, so you're refusing to see, and you're refusing to seek professional help, but at the same time you are using your partner as a therapist.
Yeah.
So it becomes, to me, it becomes something that is just not fair to another person. When you're talking about the clothes in the chair, like, there are things that we can't stand, and it comes from childhood, or it comes from our exes, things that just bother the hell out of us. For me, it's like wet towels on the bed. I will tell you that please don't do it, and I'll tell you again, and then at some point I'll stop and I just pick it up and throw it somewhere. But those are a little different dealing with it than when you never work through your traumas. You never work through your shit. Your life is becoming hectic, and instead of you going to a therapist, you're just going to your partner every single day with the same freaking issues. So it becomes their life too. So they really cannot talk about their day. They cannot talk about their things because it's consuming.
Yeah.
So it becomes like a job. Like, you don't want to really listen to your partner, but you kind of have to because this is what they do,
Yeah.
you know? And it kind of kills the romance there.
Yeah, and that's why as the person that you're listening and you're hearing this person talk about some of their baggage, it's, being patient, listening, if it's something minor, maybe trying to work through it, but if it's something like deep rooted, it's something that's ongoing, maybe suggesting, look, I think it's best that you discuss this with someone, get some professional help on it, and then as the person that's throwing this on someone, like I'm the speaker of all my baggage, it's realizing that I can't use it as a weapon. It should be used more as a tool of understanding who I am, and to the extent that I'm starting to project, like you were saying, on your
Right.
significant other, realizing that you need to seek professional help yourself.
Yeah.
And
It's something interesting though, because when you meet someone and they start opening up to you about their life or their past traumas and issues and everything, you create a bond. Then you end up breaking up with that person for whatever reason. The relationship didn't work, but they still want to be your friend, or they have other exes that they're still friends with due to that bond. And I'm not saying just like the therapist role bond, but that close connection where they're good listeners, they're there for you. Have you ever had that? Have you ever had like an ex that you stayed friends because you had a close bond?
oh no, I think staying friends with exes is always a terrible idea.
I know people that have been friends with their exes for years. Even ex-wives. Not just like,
What?
I dated this girl for a month and a half, but we were good friends prior. So, dating each other just wasn't the right thing. So we went back to being friends. But I personally think that once you cross that line, I don't think you can go back to being friends. Is that like a selfish thing? Because I hear a lot of people have different views.
So for me, once you have that experience, someone where you're dating someone, typically sex is involved. To me, I think it's dangerous having an ex as a friend or someone I've frankly slept with as a friend, because at that point they become a safety valve for whatever relationship I'm in. I always have that. I'm gonna keep my ex around, so if things get hectic, at least I can
Thank
fall back on
you.
this.
That's what I think. I think that, and guys do that a little more often than women do. Is that true?
Maybe.
Do you know guys that keep their exes?
Yeah.
And why is that?
I mean, it's kind of the same thing. It's, maybe I'll find something better out there. Or I'm looking for something better out there, but for the time being, I'm going to stay friends with this person just that way I kind of have something to fall back to. Because typically...
So it's not really friendship then. It's not genuine.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think it's a terrible idea. In my experience, I have never. I don't know anybody that stays friends with their exes, and then that ex starts dating someone, and then they stay friends with that person.
It never lasts. It's true. The moment that you meet somebody or you go into another relationship, you cannot maintain that friendship.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know people that they have married other people and they still take vacations together.
That makes no sense to me.
That is the weirdest thing ever. That, okay, you were married for a long period of time, but then you both are with different people and you still want to hang out and spend time together and take vacations together. Like,
are there kids involved?
there are kids involved.
Okay, that's the only reason.
But kids are not kids. Like, they're grown kids.
Are they along with for the vacation?
Of course, everybody.
Okay. Then that makes a little bit more sense to me.
Would you, I mean, you can't, you haven't been in that position, but...
I feel like if you have kids with someone, that makes it a little bit different because at that point you're always going to have this shared interest. There's nothing you can do but have a shared interest in these kids. So
right.
Yeah, probably going on vacations, but going on a double date vacation with your ex, God, no, that's awful. No way.
No, not a double date. Of course, there are kids involved, but would you, let's say your wife had kids with prior husband, right?
Yeah.
Would you go on vacation with her and the kids and her husband and his new wife?
Yeah, I mean, because if I'm marrying someone with kids, I have to realize that the kids are involved and then those kids' mothers are involved as well, or fathers are involved as well. And I can't get out of that. Like, if I'm going to get married to this woman, she has a prior person that she's had these kids with. So at some point, if I care about these kids, then unless the dad's like a piece of shit, but like if I care about these kids, then I'm probably going to have to get to know their biological father as well. The vacation thing, it just, if I met the person and they were cool and there was obviously nothing there, no like any kind of insinuations of any kind of joke, like sexual jokes, then
right.
Sure, I'll do it. As long as it's like respectful, proper. But if
right.
it's anything more than that, one, I'm going to be worried about my wife who I'm with, one. And then two, I'm not going to do anything more with the guy than maybe like go to ballet recitals, whatever, with them. Like no vacations.
Yeah, I think that's a little overboard.
Yeah.
Too close. Yeah, I don't know what the... I mean, for me, to be honest, I have never stayed friends with an ex.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wonder if I have been too harsh on that decision. But they're an ex for a reason. And you don't end many relationships happy. You leave sad for one reason or another. One or the other is hurt. So staying friends, it's like putting salt on the wound in a way.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I would have to see you with somebody else in another relationship, which would still continue to hurt me. And this friendship will die because it's based on what? We both have to move on with our lives, and you're not going to invite me to dinner with your wife, right? You're not, because it's awkward. So I never believed that staying friends with an ex is something that you can do to yourself. It's just like, close that chapter, move on, take that bond somewhere else.
Yeah. So so we've kind of talked about the exes, using your significant other as a therapist, kind of the trust and check part. And at the end of the day, if any of those things are just too overbearing, like someone's just unloading too much baggage, not getting help, talking about their exes too much,
Cheating.
Cheating, yes, being being weird with their phone, then some point you just gotta wipe your hands clean and just say fuck that.
Fuck that.
You gotta get out of it.
Yeah.
But I've noticed a lot of my guy friends as well, but I notice it more with women. They'll stay in a relationship longer than they should because it's just not the right time to get out, or they want to give the other person a chance, and it's just. Or some people, they just like those fiery relationships where it's just.
What's a fiery relationship?
Where they argue all the time.
Like toxic?
Yeah. Yeah.
When you're fighting and having great makeup sex and then you're fighting again?
Yeah.
And you hate each other's guts? Okay.
It just has never made any sense to me.
It's not that they want to stay in it. Is that they're not ready to get out. Everybody has their threshold.
So
enough is enough. Everybody has so, for example, I have friends that have him raising his voice is a deal breaker. Okay? She's like, you do that one more time, you're out. Doesn't matter how great you are in other things, how understanding you are, what good bond we have, what a good relationship we have, how much I trust you, you trust me. You raise your voice one more time, you're out, right? There are other ones that go, no, for me is if he cheats. And for another person is another reason. So not everybody knows when to get out, when exactly to get out. It depends on their standards, what they can and cannot live with.
Yeah.
And conditions. Like if you are in a long relationship and you have invested, let's say you invested in a house or you invested in business together, there's so many things, or if you're married, there's just so many things that go in there that you can just say, fuck this. You want to give it a chance to fix it. That's why you go to therapy. You go to couples therapy and you try to see what the issues are. But for me personally, cheating and not communicating on whatever, you're always going to have issues with anyone. It doesn't matter who that person is. There's no perfect person. You're going to have issues. But if you don't know how to communicate and then that leads to cheating, and it's like, fuck this. It doesn't matter how long we've been together. It doesn't matter what we have together. I need to get out.
Yeah, and I guess it's kind of like that. Well, so primarily the reason that the two main reasons that my guy friends will stay in relationships longer than they should is either great sex or they're afraid they're not going to find someone else. What's that side for?
Very, very valid reasons. Mm-hmm. Are we looking for reasons to leave or reasons to stay?
I guess it depends on where you're at.
Okay, so there are many reasons to stay. If you just ignore the reasons to leave, right? I almost broke the wine glass. This would be the second one in her house and she will kill me. Okay. Whew, I'm going to put it over here.
Probably for the best.
I should, yeah. So if you want to ignore the reasons to leave, if you're looking at what's more convenient or comfortable to you, and there are all kinds of stuff out there. Like guys stay for sex, or they're afraid they won't find anybody else. For sex again? What else? Who else they're looking for? Because if this person is a different personality, they're not compatible with this person, then they need to be seeking somebody entirely different.
Yeah.
So they're choosing sex over personality, over character.
Yeah, I think it's...
And is that shocking or what?
I mean, especially when you're younger, as long as it's not like too toxic or anything like that.
What's too toxic?
Like if your friends start like not wanting to talk to you and hang out with you, because there was one time where I stuck with somebody a little longer than I should have, just because it was great.
Sex was good. Mm-hmm.
But it started affecting my friends, and I was just like, I gotta get out. Like I can't. I'm not doing this anymore because friends that I like hanging out with aren't hanging out with me because this person just is terrible company.
Yeah.
So
you chose your what was your priority was sex at the time.
Yes.
And so you ignored her character traits that were actually, if you had stayed, those were going to be the reason that you're going to break up eventually. Yeah. So we know that from the beginning. We might like certain things that these people bring in, but we know that at some point very soon we're going to have to leave because it goes against your values, I guess. That's what it is.
Yeah.
What you truly value. If you value money, then that's where you're going to focus, and you're going to kind of let everything else go, respect and trust and loyalty and all of that stuff. But if you value loyalty, then you're going to focus on that. And anything that revolves around loyalty, for me personally, I'm a very loyal person. And I don't care what you bring as far as material things. For me, if you are somebody that wants to do this together and you will put your 100%, then I'm game. But if you think that you can get to a point that you are very well off financially and you think that you can start doing things that break my loyalty, then I don't care what you got. Like, loyalty is my main value. Yeah. You break that, you got to go. I don't care how wealthy you became during the last 5 years that we were together. You're not the same person that I wanted. So it depends. We all have different values.
Yeah.
And sex is important too, of course. But I would never, no. I have never stayed in a unhealthy or relationship just because of sex.
Good for you.
I mean, I would stay for a couple months, because you got to get the best out of it. But in your mind, that this is not something you're going to stick around for a long time because it goes against your values and you're wasting each other's time.
Yeah.
There's so many reasons that people stay. I know people that stay in like super toxic relationships, but they're pointing fingers at each other, and that's funny because you both know that they have traits. They both have toxic traits. You see how they fight. You see how they talk about each other. They're like so bad, but they stay because their demons play well together, I guess.
Huh.
Like they're both toxic, so they match. Or they're both cheaters. I mean, where else are you going to find another cheater that it's okay with you cheating? Those are like 1 in a million, right?
Yeah.
So there are like so many reasons that people stay in these relationships. Works for them.
Yeah, you just gotta prioritize, like you said, what you want at the time. And if you're looking for something serious, to find the person that you want to be with, get out, move to the next one.
So, how do men know that they can trust the woman they're with?
For me, it's whenever they just kind of leave their phones anywhere. It doesn't matter, like if they go outside to do gardening or whatever it is, just kind of leaving their phone in open sight.
So just transparency.
Transparency, and whenever, certain things come up, like when certain things come up that bother me, and I bring it up, as long as that conversation doesn't upset them. Because to me, you're not going to get upset if you have nothing to hide. So, and you're also mature enough to realize, people have their own pasts, and if that person's bringing it up, it's because something's happened in their past that it bothers them. Now, if someone is bringing something up every single day, like you do this, it bothers me, then that's a different issue. But if it's something, every once in a while the person's like, hey, this happened, or I saw this, or, there was hair in the car, whatever it is, just coming out and saying, hey, I saw this, I don't feel comfortable about it, whatever it is, however you want to bring it up, and
Right.
the person can just have a conversation with you about it. So that's
Not get defensive or feel attacked, but be able. You gotta have some compassion there, though. You know,
Yeah.
if somebody comes to you all the time and say, "Hey, this really bothers me," you do it all the time. People tend to be like, "Well, it's not my fault. It sounds like your problem."
Yeah.
You hear that, and it's crazy because I've probably done it too. Well, I'm sorry that it bothers you. But then we don't understand that we're dismissing their feelings and we're not having any compassion that they may be struggling with this while you're just not caring at all.
Yeah.
But what if your partner goes out on girls' nights and stuff like that or takes trips with friends?
So for me, I don't ever have any. I've never been one to worry about stuff like that personally.
So
Like,
you trust as well.
yeah.
You're like, I'm giving you my trust. It's up to you to fuck it all up.
Well, to me, I am not an anxious person at all.
Yeah.
So to me, worrying about things, to me, being anxious and stressed and worrying about things just doesn't make sense to me because it does nothing for me.
It sabotages your relationship as well.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of like bringing that energy in when you're worried and stressed.
And like you said, if someone's going to cheat on me while they're out, you're probably going to find out just by their
Yeah.
mannerisms and stuff like that. Or eventually you're going to realize that that person's not happy with you and it's going to end at some point anyway. So, me worrying about it at that time is not going to do anything.
Right.
Because, the writing's in the sand and eventually that relationship's going to go to the side anyway. So, I mean, again, I can understand, especially nowadays with, how some guys can be very aggressive. There's just like more...
Controlling.
Yeah, it's more free nowadays when it comes to sex and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, the risk of cheating is higher.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot more options and I mean, who's to say that is never going to happen in your entire life? And that's something that we can touch on later, because it's part of everyday life. And we see it as this big monster. But it's happening every day. It's happening to all of us. And to some of us it's like a death sentence to the relationship, but to others it's something that they can totally overcome and understand the root of it and move on with their lives. Like, not two couples are the same anymore when it comes to that. But when it comes to toxic relationships and this fiery relationship that you talk about, I really want to, on the next episode, I would really like to touch on disorders, on some things that have become very abusive to a lot of people. And a lot of people don't know that they have been in an emotionally abusive relationship. And after you have entangled your life with somebody and put so much effort and investment into everything, you find out, this is who this person really is and how to cope with that. That's something that happens as well. So it's a good topic to have more on the next episode.
I think that's a great idea. And unless you have anything else for today's episode,
I'm pretty sure that as soon as we finish here, I'm going to have some questions that I wish I had talked about.
But that's every episode, so...
Are you trying to say that I am the one that forgets all the questions?
Oh, no, I forget.
Let me look over here, because I will.
Yeah, that's part of doing these shows. We typically try and write down the questions we have so that way we don't forget anything. But even writing them down, we can still forget stuff.
Oh, this is a good one that you asked me. That, of course, I'm not surprised that I forgot it. Is it a problem if men want to discuss their problems? No.
Okay.
It's never a problem. Men choose not to discuss their problems because they feel that it's going to make them look weak. I have not met one woman that would say, God, I hate when my husband opens up to me and tells me about how hard his day was. Or I hate that he's going through this stress and he's trying to go to provide for us and all of this, and I just rather watch the movie. I have not met one woman that does that.
And okay, so since we're bringing this up, I will say, good. I'm glad that women are like that, but I think it's
Not all, but I have not met one yet.
I think it's important for women to realize that when guys do finally open up, that it's, listen, whenever a guy's talking about stuff that's stressing them out, instead of trying to fix the problems or give solutions, it's, okay, listen, and then once they're done, say, is there anything else? And then sometimes, like for me, I will put my thoughts together before I say what I'm about to say, especially when there's something bothering me. So sometimes I'll be quiet for like 2, 3, 4 minutes, and that drives my wife crazy. and
Because we are like,
yeah, exactly.
If you think we're like,
yeah.
First thing I'm like, oh my God, is he cheating on me?
So it's about just giving that space to be like, okay, is there anything else? Waiting, and wait for the person, waiting for the person to see if they're going to say. I mean, after 5 minutes goes by, my go-to is always like, I'm here for you. If there's anything I can do, let me know. Would it be helpful if I discuss some of those things with you, just to see if they're in a spot where they just want you to listen,
mm-hmm.
or if they're looking for solutions. Because sometimes, like when I'm talking, all I want is just someone to listen. That's it. Because I already know what the solutions are. It's just sometimes I want to get it off my chest, get it out into the air. I know what needs to be done. I know that I lived a privileged life and I have nothing to complain about. But sometimes it's helpful just to let it all out. And then I'm free of it.
Yeah.
So,
I agree 100%. I'm the same way. I just want to talk about something. I have already found the solution. And I think guys tend to do that more often. Like they are the ones that provide the solutions.
That's true, yeah.
Women are more like, oh, I'm so sorry you feel that way. A little more nurturing. But guys tend to jump right in. They interrupt you and they go right in. We'll do this. If you're stressed with your job, just quit. No, I'm not going to quit my job because I had a stressful week.
Yeah.
I just want you to listen so I can get this, out of my chest and vent or whatever it is. That's why it helps sometimes to call your best friend before you do that.
Yeah. It's just for both men and women, it's just about listening.
Yeah.
And then, if someone wants support, they'll ask for it. Or
that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
Like, why has it become so difficult to take care of each other?
I gotta be honest, to me, some women tell me straight up they want a man that isn't going to be emotional and stuff like that, and they want someone that is emotionally steady. I have women on the first date.
They want somebody that is emotionally steady?
Yes.
Well, emotionally steady is that they're not taking them through roller coasters.
Yeah, I agree.
That's different. We are supposed to control we're supposed to be mature about our emotions, not fly off the handle for the slightest thing. Let out our anger just because not be able to control any of it. That's what I translate to steady.
So maybe that wasn't the best way to put it, but when I say steady, I mean one way. No days of where you're
fuck that.
Sad
I don't like that. I don't think you're normal to me.
But I've heard women say that they think it's weird when a man cries all the time, or when a man.
I mean, when you put the word "all the time," it is weird.
I don't know.
Okay, so okay.
As often as
If something happened to you, you lost a family member or somebody dear to you. If something happened to you, then you have your grieving period. Again, it's normal to cry all the time. You're gonna have to let out your emotions. If you're going through something that really stressed you out, or even if you're going through depression, we're humans. We go in and out of phases. Sometimes we are doing great, and sometimes we're just burned out and we're exhausted and we don't want to associate with anyone. We want to isolate, or we just want to take a trip by ourselves somewhere. We don't even tell our best friends, nobody, what we're doing, where we're going. And sometimes we just want to lay in bed and be lazy and process those feelings. So I think I'd rather be with a man that respects his emotions, and it's a form of respect. You respect yourself as a human, so you know that you're going to be depressed, you're going to be moody, you're going to be you're going to cry, too emotional. Maybe you watch a movie and you cry. What's wrong with that?
Look, I agree. I'm on board with you.
Then have a man that pretends or keeps a poker face and pretends to be the same. That's not very, to me, that's just not normal. I would not be able to connect with somebody that did not think they were a fuck up sometimes, or haven't had any regrets, or had any emotions, or just felt that they were ugly, or felt that they were fat, or whatever they are going through, and they say, I hate myself. There are mornings that I wake up and I'm like, God, I hate myself. And then I'm like, okay, you shouldn't say that to yourself. But guess what? I did.
Yeah.
And whoopsie-doo. I hate myself right now. In 2 hours, I fucking love myself. That's what we do. We can't be one way or another. So again, women complain more about men not talking about what's bothering them because what's happening is that they're showing it in ways that actually hurt our feelings. They become distant, inconsistent, quiet, non-sexual. Well, you are expressing those emotions, but you're expressing in ways that are hurting the relationship.
I agree.
So now you're making me think something wrong, you're cheating, you don't like me, you don't love me. Then we have a bigger monster in the room. So I would prefer you tell me you hate yourself than not be loving anymore.
So pretty much what we heard is if you can't find someone that lets you be emotional, then fuck that.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
See you on the next one.